This lecture is on Chapter 8, the inner join. The topics covered are the definition of a join, the definition of a particular type of join called the inner join, and SQL set operations for inner joins. When performing a join, the database logically combines every row in the first table with every row in the second table. This join is usually performed on the primary key from one table with a foreign key in the other table. It is important to note that the primary keys and the foreign keys must be of the same data type. Since we are moving from simple queries on one table to queries consisting of two or more tables joined, it is important to use the prefix of the table name with the column name. In this example, from a simple query, the table is employees. The columns are prefixed with the table name. So in the select clause, we see employees.first name, employees.last name, employees.phone number. You do not need to prefix the column names when you are performing a simple query. This is just an example to help us move forward into queries with multiple tables and using prefixes of the table names with the column names when we have multiple tables in a select statement. This is the syntax diagram of an inner join between two tables. We see our keywords inner, join, on, and using, all uppercase, bold font. After the join, we have the table name. After the on, we have the search condition. We are accustomed to search conditions. We have been using them in our where clause. The using clause can be used with a column name that exists in the two joining tables. For instance, instead of table A.gender equal to table B.gender, we could apply the using clause and just include in our select statement using open parentheses gender close parentheses. This is an example of an inner join between two tables. Suppose your manager offers a request, which is show me the recipe title, preparation, and recipe class description, that sounds like 3 columns, of all recipes in my database. The two tables that are needed to satisfy this query are recipe classes and recipes. Notice recipe class ID is a primary key in the recipe classes table, and it is a foreign key in the recipes table. The select statement would be this: select recipe title, preparation, recipe class description. Those are the 3 columns that satisfy the query request from, and this is where it is different from what we have been doing previously, from table, inner join table, from recipe classes, inner join recipes. That is where we specify our inner join. The next clause is on recipe classes dot recipe class ID equal to recipes dot recipe class ID. That is our join condition between the primary key and the foreign key. Another way to write this would be to just change the from clause by listing the two tables and then adding the where clause for the condition. In this second example, we have from recipe classes recipes and the where clause recipe classes dot recipe class ID equal to recipes dot recipe class ID. Notice the difference between the syntax of the two select statements, but they're both performing the same query. The result set would be the same. This is an example of an inner join with the using clause. Suppose again your manager gives you a query, a request, show me the recipe title, preparation, and recipe class description of all recipes in my database. This is the same request from the previous slide, but the select statement will be different. Remember, if the columns that are shared between two tables have the exact name, then we can just use that column name once in the using clause. The select statement in this case would be select the three columns from recipes, the table, and join recipes, the other table, but this time instead of on or instead of a where clause, we are applying the using clause, and within parentheses, we have the column that is common between the two tables. So this is a third select statement that satisfies the same query from your manager. We use column aliases in our previous simple queries. In this syntax diagram, we see that we can use aliases on our table names, which is an advantage since with joins we are specifying at least two tables. We have used column aliases in our simple queries, but now that we are joining tables, which means our select statements will involve two or more tables, it is to our advantage to also use aliases for our table names. It's the same as we did for our column names, we will do for our table names. The key word is as, after the table name, followed by the alias name, or as in this syntax diagram, the correlation name. This is the syntax diagram of a select statement with embedded select statements, one in the from clause and one in the join clause. We will work with embedded select statements later on in the semester. They are also called subqueries, but for now I just want you to be aware of the syntax diagram and of the concept that a select statement can be in the from clause and can be in the join clause. I will now show you a select statement with an embedded select statement in the from clause as an answer to the same query from your manager. Show me the recipe title, preparation, and recipe class description of all recipes in my database. So now this is the fourth select statement that I have covered in this overview of Chapter 8 for this very same query. Notice in the from clause we have another select statement. Select recipe ID, recipe class description as class name from recipe classes, and we have our condition in the where clause. This is the embedded select statement in the from clause. We're looking at it in isolation. What does it return? It returns recipe class ID and class name. Notice the only two values for class name are main course and dessert, which is due to the condition in the where clause. So keep in mind, this is the inner or embedded select statement that we are looking at in isolation. Here is the embedded select statement in its location in the from clause, and we have the screenshot of the query result, recipe class ID, and class name. That from clause consists of a virtual table of these two columns, the result of the embedded select statement. The outer select statement selects recipe title, preparation, and class name. We see that result in the screenshot below the select statement. In this overview of Chapter 8, we looked at what is a join, in particular what is an inner join, and we reviewed the syntax diagrams of select statements of two or more tables. Your assignments for this week are the Chapter 8 quiz and the Chapter 8 programming assignment.